In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with blending modes, which can be found here. So there's a different variety, and each of them create a different sort of understanding with the blend mode. For over here, for my finished product, this is actually using a blend mode right here. So I just named this color shape, and you can sort of see how, as I go over different things, it all has a slightly different look to it. So sometimes it looks green, sometimes it will look blue, and that really depends on the color and what's it's sitting on top of. So we're going to be investigating those a little bit more today. First off, I need a new layer. So you can either do Command N or you can come down here to the new layer icon. And I'm just going to put this blend mode shape. Remember to label your layers. You can get a little behind in that, just as long as you make sure you label by the end in case you have to share a file with someone else. It's great to label to have them more informed, and also it helps you along the way for faster finding of an object if you have extreme layers on here. Okay, so first I'm just going to pencil out an interesting shape. So I'm just having some fun here. And again, with that closed circle hovering over that anchor point, that is saying let's close this up. I'm going to come over here to paths. And I'm going to come down here to load path as a selection. And please remember, on my pen tool, I had path up here too. I did not have it as shape. So really either way, I think you could do it, but I'm just going to do it this way so you can see how that will work. And I'm going to come up again, load a selection. And what this is doing right now is that I can come over here to my brush or my bucket and I can work with the color. Now, depending on the color will depend on how these results will look. With black and white, you really won't get significant results, but with the colored one, you will because of the different ways that color is made up, unlike black and white. So we'll just go with sort of this greenish blue color here and see what we can get. So I'm going to come over here. Again, I can come here to my brush and I can come up here and I can fill it easily enough. Or I can come down to my paint bucket, click, and it's filled. And now I'm going to deselect it, Command D, or you can come up to select, deselect. And I'm going to come back to my layers. So now that we have our shape, it is a full color. I'm going to come up here to the different blend modes, and you can just see what they're starting to do. And I'll blend, and I will zoom in for you here, so you can see. Now I want to try to put it over here so you can see what they look like on top of two extreme colors and maybe on this sort of gradient sunset and moon, but I'll move them around too so you can also see the effects that they'll have otherwise. So again, coming over here, and let's just test these out. Again, this differs for all of them how it will consistently look because it depends on how it is layered. So again, every shape will be slightly different, or selection will be slightly different when you do this. So it's great to experiment and take a few minutes to discover what you can do with this. So with dissolve here, let's zoom in. You can see that what it did here, it ate at the edges. Okay, so up close, again, this is 284%. You can see that it's worked with that a little bit there. So, if you want more of a biting sort of edge look, if we go down in opacity, you can get this really interesting texture, okay? And so it sort of like eats at it. So that can add some really cool, fun grain effects. If you want that at full percent opacity, it only really works with the outside, just starting to get there, but it is quite interesting once it gets down here. So that's dissolve, and of course 0 opacity equals you will not be able to see it. Darken. So right here what it's done it's darkened the color. Now this is going to change again on every single one that you do. The original color's down here, so you can sort of see that, but it sort of enriched the tones of it, and so whatever it's lying on top on, again, it's going to change that. So with this, is taking that opposite. With the yellow, it's darkening it there. On top of the yellow, it's green. Over here, it's more of a blue. So some really interesting layering effects you can get there. Multiply. Use multiply a lot when working with different photographs together. I find it quite successful when you want something sort of drenched in a nice, beautiful color. Color burn. So you can see here that where the color is really intensified, that you might not be able to see it, is sort of burning that color so it stays true. It could be darkening it still. See how this is turning green, but the brightest parts of the flower are still yellow. So you can see it up there, right? It's almost like the highlightings. It's burning that color for them to stand out more, or like maybe there's a difference. So it's burning that. So here it stayed yellow and it turned green, but over here it turned a darker sort of purpley blue because of this, and it extremed the pink. So again, these always have different effects with that linear burn. So it's burning, it's deepening the color. Darker color. So this one is really funky. So again, it could be an interesting texture. Or maybe add something that almost looks like a color block or a wood print. Lighten. So again, originally that color, and wherever it lays on top of the other color, it's lightening. So when it's sort of laying on like a neutral, sort of like this gray, or if we put it on the black, it would almost look like the same, right? It's just lightening it up. It's almost making it like a pastel color. But again, when we put on top another color, it's bleaching that out. It's really working with that color on the bottom. It's still putting that, the hue of what we originally have on there. It's just different. Screen. So giving a little bit more opacity that you can see it a little bit better underneath. So really cool effects with all these. Color dodging. And you have to figure out what works best for you. These are just some samples for you. But you can see here it's brightening the photo. It's working with the highlights and almost blindingly blowing them up. But a lot of fun, interesting techniques that you can use with all of these. Linear dodge add, lighter color. So again, keeping the brightest of the brights on each of these. So really a lot of these are going. An interesting way to work with the moon there. The flower there. So again, the darkest is out, the lightest is still in. Overlay. So again, if we take it up here, it's almost like it's disappearing into space, but once you overlay on top, it's brightening and adding a different hue to it. Soft light. Hard light. Vivid light. Taking the extremes. And this is kind of interesting with the flower. Like you could see it here, but with the vivid light, you're almost getting an X-ray vision. It's quite interesting. But then with the sunset and its subtlety, you're almost losing that totally. But it really catches those subtle details of contrast. It's quite interesting. Linear light, pin light, hard mix. So this could be maybe an illustration type of understanding, maybe something for printmaking. That's quite interesting what it's doing there. It's giving it definitely a more illustrative, drawing-like. Instead of making it photography-based, it's breaking down the colors so you can work with those. Difference. So taking those hues and flipping them. This can have a lot of fun. Exclusion, subtract, divide. So that's interesting. So even with the subtleness in the space, it's picking that up. Dividing that hue. Hue, so really whatever this color is, it's putting that right on top of it. Saturation. So you can see it a little bit in the moon at certain parts, definitely over here. This really has to highlight saturating. So things that are already saturated, like these flowers, they're not doing that much to it, but look at what it's doing to the gray, and look at what it's doing to the sky there, space. It's interesting. Color, and then luminosity. So again, making a little bit more illustration, like block color. So again, all of these can be used for different things. It's just really depending on the look that you want and the effects that you want to get across. But have some fun with those. I might have used darkened for my original one over there. Yeah, darken or multiply. It's almost the same look, though I kind of like darken better. Yeah, so go ahead and play around with those blending modes, and again, they apply right to it and everything it's on top of. So if it's, you know, on the bottom here, it could affect this now and this, but maybe not this flower. So the layering process of these is really important as well to make sure you get the effects that you really want in each piece. So that's just a basic introductory to blending modes. So have some fun with those. Experiment.